Try again.
Hey, what's happening, y'all? And welcome to episode 99 of Storytime with Julian. This is the penultimate episode before the big break. And tonight's episode is called Summa, My Favorite Folk. Feeling like I'm feeling about it being summertime, I wanted to read some of the stories that kind of put me in that summertime mood. It's not necessarily that these are summer stories, but they're stories written by writers who just really get a good feeling for that I don't know, just the way summer felt when I was a kid. And so my affinity and affection for J. California Cooper, Toni, Cade, Bambara, and Miss Crystal E. Wilkinson is not a secret at all. It's probably the worst kept secret of the show. And for that reason, I wanted to go ahead and, since we are coming up on the close of this particular chapter of Storytime, I wanted to revisit some of my faves. And these three ladies are absolutely some of my faves. And then on Thursday, you can count on hearing a little bit from friend of the show and one of my faves, Rihanna Milcar Scott. You're also going to hear a little bit from, we can't close it, grand opening, grand closing. We can't go without hearing a little bit of N.K. Jemisin. And because one of the best things about the show, one of the hallmarks of this show, has been original writing that has come from the family of this show, we are going to revisit The Tempering of Chocolate, Chapter 6. So that's what's on deck for Thursday, a little bit more into the flights of fancy, if you will. But tonight, we're going to keep it real grounded in that real, in that down home good stuff. And I'm not going to do a whole lot of preamble. Listen, I'm glad to see you all here. It's a little bit light, but that's okay. I understand. It's warm out. People are out and about doing things, and I'm glad of it. Just make sure that for those of you who are here, go ahead and share this link, share this stream on your page on Facebook. Go ahead and copy that link or direct some folks to it. Make sure that they get a chance to check it out. Everybody's not going to be able to check it out live, and that's cool. But I am always happy to have my live crew here. And let's see who that live crew is tonight before we get into it. It's if some of you are on Facebook and some of you are on YouTube, that means I have 2 live crews. Anyway. All right, so I see that we've got Melanie Monroe here. I see Judy Lee is in the place. Foxy Kitty is Kitty Foxy. Good to see her. I see Olive and Boo. We know her as Latricia Ransom. She says, "Hello, darlings." She's all on her Cruella right now, on her Cruella de Vil. I see that we've got Marie here, and my homie from Soul Monkey Publications is here. It is time. It is story time with Julian. That's what's up. And Kelly Ruff is here. So that's good to see y'all. And for those of you all who have chosen not to announce yet, that's all right. That's okay. I'm not mad about it. I am, in fact, just glad you're here. Listen, without going into much more than that, because we're trying to do a lot of stories tonight, I want to jump right in with this first delightful, it's J. California Cooper. Now, we know she can go real dark. She can go real bright. I glanced through this. I don't like to read them before. I like to do this as a cold read. It says so in the disclaimer. I'm going to be reading this for the first time. I glanced through it. It doesn't look like it gets too dark. There's a couple of, pardon me. So sorry. There's a couple of parts where it might get a little bit twingy. Okay, so have your guard up. But we are reading, He Was a Man, but the parenthetical subtitle is, But He Did Himself Wrong. Sounds like it's going to be a good one. Let's find out together, shall we? Just a glasses off story. I have always been the kind of person who wonders about people and things, and I have some neighbors who have kept me pretty busy with plenty to wonder about. It's not real important how or where Smitty and Della met. The main thing is they were married 9 years when I got to know them. At first, because of the way the world looks at things, they seemed unlikely, funny couple. He was short, 5 feet or so, 125 pounds, while Della was 5'7" or so and 207 pounds. You pictured them making love, and in your mind it was real funny, but you shouldn't do that picturing stuff because making love real people is never funny. Remember, the heart has its own way of picking a partner and never asks for measurements. Anyway, Smitty was a feisty, loudmouth, bragging, aggressive little man, always trying to outtalk or outdo some taller man. But Della loved him even beyond the love is blind thing. Anything Smitty did was all right with Della. Even the way she cooked his meals. He had so many things he disliked, and his food had to be just right. Just right. And he was the kind of man who even liked gravy on his lamb chops. Very few vegetables, hardly any fruit and all that, all of which made Della gain more weight because, of course, she had to taste it and be sure it was just right. She could make a homemade bread that would make you kill yourself. She did everything Della did: wash, cook, clean, garden, shop, chauffeur, watch football games, listen to him lie, pet, massage, and make love too. Maybe more, I don't know everything. I know he was proud of Della. He was always bragging down there at the pool hall at work about her, but he never told her, thinking just staying with her was enough. Well, after 9 years, maybe he was right. Their marriage must have been strong because they got over some real big hurdles, which made me wonder at the way it all turned out. Like, one time I ran over to their house. They had a nice little house sitting all by itself on a neat little lot that they rented. Anyway, I went over there and he was standing on a box directing her how to tie a rope over a beam so he could hang her, shouting, "I'm the man. You're going to have to do what I say. I ain't talking no shit." Della just crying, trying to tie that rope like he telling her. Well, I talked him out of it that time. I think he was glad because he didn't know no other way back down than to give her life back. I told her later, "You a fool. Big as you is, you gonna let that little man kill you? Help him kill you?" That's when I found out it wasn't the first time. Anyway, she just said, "I don't think he was really gonna do it," and smiling went on about cooking him something special. I just really want you to know that she thought he was special, that he had power, black and otherwise. Whatever he had, she believed him. I mean, that man had him a woman. Now, there's always a little hell waiting around paradise, and Della's hell was that every once in a while, Smitty hit her, abused her. It hurt and it didn't hurt. But it seemed to do so much for him, being so small and all, hitting a woman so large she never tried to hit him back. He would tell everyone down at the pool hall and work again, "I know I am boss." He pranced as he told them. His chest stuck out in pride, and he had a lot of that. He had whipped his woman, all 207 pounds of her. All those pounds that loved him. Their bed had to be braced up by bricks underneath so the mattress wouldn't tilt when Della got in bed and bring him crashing over to her side, reminding him of his size. One night when they were sleeping, someone broke into the house. Don't know what they came for, because Della and Smitty didn't have nothing much special. Just one of those crazy people that don't have sense enough to be honest and ain't got sense enough to know how to be dishonest and rob somebody with something. Anyway, Della heard the noise and woke Smitty up. He lay there a moment, then said, "Let's see what's going on." He hollered from the bed, "Who there? Who in this house?" They got up and went into the hall, and there was this dope addict or something looking raggedy and holding a gun. Smitty ran past him going to get his gun, I guess, and Della got scared and tried to follow him past the robber, who was then squashed against the wall with Della screaming at him to let her go. She must have hit him or something, because he was really trying to get out of that tight spot with all that mouth wide open screaming in his ears, and probably hoping somebody would come in and save him from his victims. But their house stood all alone, and at the cafe bar across the street made so much noise nobody could hear them. The gun went off around that time, and Della thought Smitty had saved her when Smitty came rushing around the corner hollering Della's name. Guess he thought she had been shot, and the robber slid down the wall at her feet, dead. Smitty hadn't been able to find his gun. They grabbed each other and looked at the dead man. He had shot himself with Smitty's gun accidentally. Della said, "We got to call the police." Smitty said back, wait a minute. Let's talk about this." So they did. Smitty continued, "Now listen, if we call them cops, we're going to have a lot of trouble. That's my gun, and I ain't got no license for it. And I can't prove I ain't pulled the trigger and put that gun in his hand. All them cops that look at TV, and ain't no telling what they going to decide happened here." Della's eyes grew even wider. "Well, what else can we do? We can't throw him outside in the street." Smitty shot back, "Oh, yes, we can. And that's just what we got to do." He ran to look out the window with Della following him, her large white flannel gown billowing around her. No one was in sight, and the music was blasting from the cafe. It was settled in Smitty's mind. The dead man was going outside. Della started crying till Smitty slapped her into just whimpering and sniffling. She went to get a robe and a cap, and Smitty went to get an old blanket out of his car. She noticed that the blood that had flowed from the man's wound and went to get a Band-Aid. Smitty came back and snatched it and stuck it in the man's shirt pocket. In fact, They did all the wrong things you see on TV. They rolled the man up, and when the cafe closed and was all dark, they carried the corpse over to the empty lot and left it. Went home, cleaned up, wiped off the gun, put it in the drawer, and went to bed with Smitty explaining, I didn't kill him. You didn't kill him. So we ain't got nothing to do with it. He broke into our house, took our gun. Everything was suddenly our. And shot his own self. We didn't know him before. We don't know him now. So go on to sleep. Forget the whole thing. So they did. See what I mean? Something that's big like death. They stepped over that like it was a broom. Anyway, the police found the body the next day, took it somewhere and did something. And since the man was black, the case was closed, even with all those clues stamped killed by person or persons unknown closed. And that was that. Smitty and Della picked up their life and went on as usual. He felt real smart because he had handled it real smart, and so began to add when they had arguments, you ain't got no sense. If it wasn't for me, a man in this house, ain't no telling what would happen to you. Della smiled at that. Della smiled at all that. She was used to it, and she loved her some Smitty. Then this thing happened that made me wonder at them because they had been through such big things, and this seemed little to me, you might say. It was a day that Della had not been feeling well, maybe lost a baby or something almost as important. She was always talking about having a baby, and Smitty was always trying to make one. Also, her special cake for Smitty had burned while she was trying to untangle something in the washing machine wringer, and when she put that cake on the sink, she burnt her hand, and in flinging her arm out, she filled the dish drainer rack. It fell to the floor, and the dishes and glass flew everywhere. She was barefoot and cut her foot tipping across the floor. She burst into loud, dreadful tears and ran into the hall past the sign that read, God bless this home, through the pink door that she had painted pink because it made her feel like a woman going into a romantic bedroom. She flung herself across the bed onto the spread she had crocheted painstakingly to laugh and to love on, and she cried herself to sleep. When Smitty came home, he did his lion's roar at the door, and receiving no answer, he went through the house and found Della asleep. And he got mad. He started stomping around and shouting at her about the dirt. There was no dirt. The filthy kitchen, just broken dishes is all. No dinner, well, there was none, but my Lord. The messed up favorite cake as if it was on purpose. And everything else his little mind could come up with. He never did ask her what was wrong. He kept shouting, a man this and a man that. Della swung her legs around and sat on the edge of the bed and tried to smile and explain. She was still trying to smile and explain when Smitty came rushing up and slapped her twice. One way and then back the other. Her arm must have shot out instinctively in reaction, and she caught him solid, and he flew all across the room, through the door, and hit the wall in the hall and blacked out. Now, that alone was bad enough, but Della went and picked him up and placed him in bed. That Della was strong. So when he woke up an hour or so later, he looked around him and cried. Now, he really was a man, ain't no question, but he cried. Him. Smitty. Della came rushing into the room at the sound of the crying. When she saw him, she started crying too. What's wrong? Are you hurt, Daddy? What's the matter, baby? But he pushed her away, snot and spit flying. Then he snarled at her from his pain. An ego can be a dangerous, painful thing. Get away from me. Get away. I hate you, you big, fat, ugly bear. You ape. You a ape, a gorilla. You ain't no woman. But Smitty, she began to whine and try to ease him, but he wouldn't have any of that. He got up to trying to move without showing his pain and got the little raggedy suitcase. They didn't never go nowhere, so they didn't need no new ones. You understand what I'm saying? And began to throw things in it. Della's eyes were big and red and swollen, and she kept trying to grab his shirts and underwear from him, but he done stopped crying now and was really talking mean to her, calling her all kinds of names, sloppy fat bitches and things like that. It was untrue, and it hurt her. You could almost see her drawing up, shrinking every time a word struck her. Seemed like the words were razor blades cutting her to ribbons. This was her Smitty, talking to her. As Smitty got to the door, he turned. I can't never live with you no more. You always gonna think you better than me. That's what you want, to be the man. Well, I ain't staying nowhere I can't be the man. You get yourself and your stuff together and get out my house as soon as you get you some money. I'm taking all we got now because I done made it all while you sat here on your ass. You the man now. You can get you some more. Della reached for him. Please, Daddy, baby, please, Daddy, don't go. Don't leave me. I'm sorry. She screamed that part. I didn't mean to hit you. Please don't go. I'm begging you, Daddy. I'm begging you. She grabbed his arm, and such a hate in his face went down in his arm, and he struck her so hard, she just let go and stood there with her arms hanging and her tears pouring down. He left, leaving the door open so she could watch him leaving, wobbling away, dragging that suitcase, taking the car. She finally shut the door and went to bed for 2 weeks. I tended her and checked on her, and she wouldn't eat nothing or talk, and usually she's a big talker, but time takes care of everything, and time took care of her. Pretty soon she got up and got on out to find work. She was still grieving, but with every bad, there's some good, and she was losing weight like thunder. Smitty had got him a room somewhere and was busy telling everybody everywhere that he had done left Della. Wasn't gonna keep no woman who wants to be the man in his family. Della don't know how to treat no man, but she would before she sat foot in that house again, He meant it too, he said. But every day when he come out of that door at work, lunch and quitting time, he seemed to be looking for somebody. Pretty soon he would go to the windows and peer out through the day, but nobody was there, at least not Della. He let everybody know where he lived, but she didn't go there either. I called her one day just a cussing to herself, crying. I said, "What's the matter with you, Della?" "Nothing," she answered. "Just repeating all the names Smitty called me so I don't forget and go running out there after him." Well, that was Della's formula, and it seemed to work. She didn't go. As she kept crying and grieving, she grew thinner and her clothes began to hang on her. She looked terrible, but didn't care. I tried to make her eat, but she wouldn't. There was a church social coming up, and I talked 2 days to get her to go and even helped her buy some new things to wear that fit her. I can tell you honestly that Della at 135 pounds was a whole new better Della than she was at 207 pounds. She was good looking. And with that big, sweet, innocent, sad smile, she was pretty, and the men let her know it. She danced every dance once I got her started and laughed and laughed and laughed with happiness. Smitty wasn't there. He probably was at the pool hall bragging his hold on her. I ain't gonna say a lot about it, but there was a nice man there named Charles, and he took to Della like wet takes to water. Soon they was going out together, being seen a lot. Smitty heard about it. He wanted to come around and save his ego. At the same time, he began to come around the house and tell her she had to move out. He needed a place. I know he wanted her to say, "Come on home then," but she didn't. Instead, she said, "Give me a month to see what I'm going to do and how, and then I'll be gone." He didn't really want that house. He wanted Della, but his pride and ego kept him from telling her. I don't really know what would have happened if he had told her, but anyway, Charlie told her to move in with him, and he was buying his own house. She just said she would think about it. One day, Smitty came by to check in on his house, and Charlie was there. Smitty said, blustering, Well, I'm here now. You better go. This is a husband talking to his wife, and you ought to leave." Charlie answered real softly, "Well, Smitty, I didn't come to see you at your invitation. I came to see Della at her invitation. So you can't tell me to go. Only Della can do that." Smitty said, taken aback, "This my house. I say what go on here, and this my wife." Della said softly, "This is the landlord's house, and I've been paying the rent, Smitty, so it's not your house." She looked neat and clean and pretty, and you could smell food cooking. Smitty repeated, stubborn, "I want to talk to my wife." Charlie said, just as stubborn, "When she tells me to go, I will." Della said, "I invited him to supper, Smitty. I can't tell my company to go." Smitty said, "I'm your man. Invite me to supper." Della said back, "No, You said you wasn't my man, that I was the man. Charlie don't think I'm a man. Smitty, quick to think wrong. Well, what? Why he don't think you a man? What you been doing with him? He balled his fist up. Charlie put in, I hope to marry Della someday. Smitty said, she already married to me. They both looked surprised when Della said, I ain't made up my mind about anything. She looked thoughtful for a minute, then continued, Charlie will eat supper, then he will go. Then you can come back and talk. Smitty was outdone. Come back, he asked. Della was up to it. If you want to. So Smitty left. But before he was out the door completely, Charlie said, standing in the doorway like it was his, Smitty, I am interested in Della and she is my friend. So if I leave it, ain't so you can go do whatever you want to her. Don't you hurt her. Don't touch her, because I will know about it. Smitty left mumbling to himself that wasn't nobody gonna do nothing to him. Now, all the time I've been knowing Della, she always said how Smitty didn't remember no birthday presents or Valentine's days or nothing. She always gave him things, but when Smitty came back, he was dressed up and had a bag of candy in his right hand and some flowers in his left hand. But he came in fussing. Ain't you gonna offer me no dinner or cake or nothing? Are you just gonna give some of that to that Charles that don't want nothing but to go to bed with you? Then he gonna be gone, just like he done all them other women I done heard of. Della jumped up and went to get some cake. And don't you think Smitty didn't take heart from that? Sure, she said. I got plenty cake. You want some coffee? Smitty leaned back, smiling. Yeah, I would like some coffee too. As he ate the cake, Della was quiet, but he talked a lot about how well he was doing. And I've been thinking about taking a trip, like a vacation. Della sighed. He went on talking, maybe putting some money in this house to make it look good a little better. Mm-hmm. Della looked around the room and nodded. He smiled and went on. Might even go ahead and try to get one of my own. Della's eyes opened wide and she said, it must be nice to own your own house. That encouraged him. His chest came out and he decided to play his ace card and hit Della with something that would really wake her up and make her realize that she did not want to lose him. Della, he said, serious-like in a new deep voice as he wiped the last cake crumb from the saucer with his finger. Della, we gonna have to do something now, or I'm gonna get a divorce. The room was real quiet while Della stared at Smitty, her man for so long. You done found somebody else to love, Smitty? He laughed. No, I don't want none of these women to keep running after me. They worry me to death. He flecked off a speck from his pants, but waited for her to cry out, I don't want a divorce, Smitty. But she didn't. She just sat there staring down at the floor, and pretty soon tears came slowly down her cheeks. Smitty saw this and felt his point was won. He stood up and stuck his chest out, saying, well, Della, we can't go on like this. I'm a man. Della looked up at the tears, and the tears stopped and dried. I need a woman. And if it's going to be you, then say so. And if it ain't, then I better get on about my business. And he leaned toward her. Get my divorce. He waited a moment for her to say the words that would give him his good old life back. But there was only silence. Della looking at the floor again, he straightened up and looked around the home toward the bedroom where he really wanted to go and lay his big pride down. He tried to think of a way to stretch his visit out, but had played his ace too soon. So he cleared his throat and gave himself the next invitation. I'll be by a few days to get your answer, and I'm coming with my bags, Della. It was said almost like a question. Della started crying, and he went to put his arms around her and rub her back. Della, you know I'm your man. Now act like you got some sense, girl, and cut out all this dating and stuff. You my wife, and you lucky and he lucky I didn't kick his ass this day. She stepped back from his arms. He continued, go wash your face and go to bed. No more company tonight. I'll be back in a few days, Friday, with my bags, and get your life back together again because you acting like a fool. Sometimes I wonder about people. She let him kiss her and then led him to the door, and he left feeling good about being a man and about the whole thing. Della didn't sleep much that night and got up saying, might as well get this over with. And she went downtown and got a lawyer and filed for a divorce, which takes 30 days in this town. Then come home and moved most of her stuff in my house. When Friday came, she went over and sat on a chair right in front of the door and waited for Smitty. He came grinning in with his suitcase without knocking, and she handed him the paper saying, "This what you want, Smitty. If you want it, it must be right. But I like married life, so I'm going to be marrying up with Charles when this is final. I done moved, so here is your house. Now, I'll be going." He cussed her again, but didn't try to hit her. And he told her, "I don't want this house. Ain't nothing in it." She left first, then he did. And the next day, she moved all her stuff back in it. She was true to her word. When the divorce was final, the marriage plans was made. I wondered about all that, so I asked her, "Don't you think you're rushing into one marriage after another?" She always takes her time to answer. "No," she said. "I really done learned a lot. I have learned in these few months when I've been working on a job and working this stuff out with Smitty. I know about cooking and not having to cook. I know about a peaceful house when you're alone in it, having your own money or waiting for somebody to bring you some, and sleeping alone or with a husband. My life ain't never going to be like it was before, ever again. But I like having a husband. I want a man of my own." So the marriage plans went on. I was just sitting at home sewing and wondering about people when about 2 days before the little wedding, Della come running and screaming over to my house, tears streaming down. She was what you call hysterical. She couldn't say a word, just screaming, "Smitty, Smitty." So I followed her over to her house. Smitty was hanging from that same rafter he was always going to hang Della from. It looked like he had kicked the chair over. Me, I believe it was an accident and that the chair fell over. I think he was either trying to fix it so Della would catch him in time to stop him and realize she loved him, or he was fixing it for her and the chair fell over. Anyway, he was hanging there dead. I took her home and called Charles, and he took care of everything like a man. She didn't have to do anything except sign some papers for the insurance. She wanted to put the wedding off, but Charles would have none of that. And all those arrangements made too. They got married and she moved into her new home. It's been a year or so now, and they seem happy and peaceful. Della's gaining her weight back, up to 200 pounds, and she's just as happy as she can be. Sometimes when she gets to thinking about Smitty, she says, "I still believe if I had been there, he just wouldn't have done that. He would have used me instead, and we'd all be alive today." I tell her, better for that fool to accidentally kill himself like a fool than for you to be a fool and let him kill you. Sometimes I wonder about Della. And thus endeth the story. All right, y'all. That story was called "He Was a Man, But He Did Himself Wrong" by J. California Cooper. Let me see the comments. I see there was a whole lot of them here, so y'all must have had something to say about it. Let's see. All right, so y'all. Okay, so I see y'all tickled about the taurine, and that's okay. I'm with it. Listen to him lie tickled me. That absolutely tickled to me. That was just like among the list of wifely duties. Listen to him lie, because I honestly, when it was talking about her cooking the dinner, I swore she was gonna poison dude. I was like, oh, this is gonna be a short story. She's gonna poison this cat. Nah, it didn't go that way. It did not go that way. This part here, this dude with these hands, he got what he deserved. Maybe he deserved a little bit more than what he got, but he definitely got what he deserved. Della probably does need some good damn sense, but it's a good thing she at least got some good friends, and she got somebody who seems to care for her. Like wet takes to water. I like that, and I will probably repurpose that in something of my own. I really like that one. Go ahead, Uncle Charles came through. Yeah, Smitty is absolutely ridiculous. This right here, when he said real quiet, when he was like, "Smitty, I'm a guest of Della's and I can't leave until she tells me to." Yeah, when somebody talk like that, he don't want no problems with Charles. He ain't want no problems with Charles. Let's see what else. Boom. And that is definitely a big part of this. Don't give an ultimatum if you ain't ready for the answer. If you are not ready for the answer, don't do that. Don't do that. And hey, Lisa Bobby, you said you came by just for J. California Cooper, and when we didn't disappoint, I like to hear that. I'm glad that you enjoyed. I hope you stick around for the next story, which is from somebody that I think is kind of cut from the same cloth, maybe at a different angle, but the same cloth as J. California Cooper, and that's Toni Cade Bambara. So without a whole lot of pre-mumble and a whole lot of preamble, we're going to go right into the next story, which is called Playin with Punjab. And it's from this book here, Gorilla My Love by Toni Cade Bambara. I'm excited about this one. Now, this one's, it might be a little on the long side, so I really don't want to waste too much time, but I think we'll be able to get through it. We'll do all right. I think y'all will definitely enjoy it. At least I'm hoping so. I'm not even going to front on y'all. I liked the opening line. First of all, you don't play with Punjab. The man has no sense of humor. On top of that, he's 6 feet something and solid hard. And not only that, he has an incredible memory and keeps unbelievably straight books. And he figures, I guess, that there ain't no sense of you dying from malnutrition when you can die so beautifully from 1,000,001 other things that make the daily news centerfold besides. So when Jackson from the projects put it in this way, Punjab, baby, I got this chick in a trick. And her mother's got an ass in a bind, and I got to live. Punjab peeled 3 or 4 bills off the top of the dry finger, which is his way, dry, and told Jackson what the rates was. Now, you got to figure Jackson for a dumb dude. All the sharks he could have snatched just by standing in front of the hamburger joint for a hot minute. Higher rates maybe, but higher regard for your hide. And he goes to Punjab, knowing damn well that he, Jackson, is a jive stud and a game player, and that he, Punjab, don't play with nobody. So like I said, this boy Jackson never did have his proper share of sense. I'm sitting in the storefront with this gray lady, Miss Ruby, who came all the way out here to Brooklyn to straighten us folks out and had to get all the rats taken care of and told us to get jobs and stuff like that. When here comes Jackson. Now, this is several months later, and most of the block is sitting with Miss Ruby, helping her put on a program on the street just by keeping little kids off her car and bricks off her head and windows in her panes. And here comes Jackson. Everything's cool, the girl and all. But the day of reckoning is due, and like I say, Punjab don't play. Here comes Jackson in his Sunday suit with an arm swung around this Puerto Rican dude. What he's telling him is this: look, amigo, my man, I got this boss place with furniture and windows and everything, and a tub in the kitchen, so you don't even have to travel around for that morning bath. And the kitchen's painted the kind of yellow that you dig on account of the super's one of you people, you know. So for 4 beans, you can move right in and everything's yours. Don't have to mess with no boarding rooms and other shit. Send for your family in the morning, square business. Well, I said to Miss Ruby that I couldn't see the point of all that gumming and wearing out the teeth and smiling and all. Okay. Remember the disclaimer. Well, I said to Miss Ruby that I couldn't see the point of all that gumming and wearing out the teeth and smiling at all. If the spick had 4 beans on him, walk him down toward the brewery and be done with it. But according to the newspaper, that's Gwen Southern, who's like 3 monkeys reversed inside out. Jackson didn't roll the guy. He set him up in the place just like he was saying. Need I say that the place went up in smoke that morning. And when Punjab got the word that Jackson had already split, he was bitter. Like I said, Jackson got in the wind. You'd get in the wind too if your ass was in hock to Punjab. We got the word that Jackson went into the army for the 3rd time, you understand. That's how untogether Jackson is. He needs to hide out that often, that drastically. So if he knew anything at all about himself from the get-go, he would have never borrowed. And if he didn't know anything about his own self, he should have asked somebody. So he went into the army. Didn't do no good. Got iced the same day he got out. And Jackson's mother wound up hocking damn near everything she had ever brought home. And Jackson's mother wound up hocking damn near everything she had, bought on time or no. But that's another story. The story I wants to tell is about the block, I guess, and about how Miss Ruby found out that Punjab don't play. I say Miss Ruby because I myself already knew, because my mother knew a whole lot of Punjabs in her day and passed this on to me along with the vitamins and the dextrose and all them other nutrients that comes tubing in when you're huddled in there in the dark waiting room to get born. I was hopping time, and when it's hopping time in Brooklyn, I usually hauls my ashes over to one of them centers where there's a lot of scary workers with an open line to the cops. Any other time, I'm all for working with the realer type people who get right out there in the street and all the jitterbugs that take your side against the landlords and the cops. That's fine for wintertime when there ain't so much wine drinking and stoop sitting and head whipping. But in the summer, that can be dangerous, the streets. So after the field day tryouts, I put to Miss Ruby like this. Look here, Miss Ruby. I got to get my typing up and get one of them jobs in the center around the way because summer's coming on and the block's going to be holy hell. She looked me dead in the eye and said, I need you right here with me to translate, Violet, because you know I don't speak Negro too tough. I thought that was pretty cute, but I went right ahead with my typing practice, reading the dictionary and getting my suit together for one of them interviews where they always put you through even though you're only asked to swing the stupid stick and wash windows. But it turned out to be a cool summer, hot in all the usual ways, but no jitterbugging. Even in the air-conditioned diner where we all ate at, everything was hot and muggy. You could smell sour milk and mushy watermelon all day long. Your coffee was always full of cinders, and everybody looked grim and grimy, and all the dogs looked like they had rabies or something. And one of the piers caught on fire for no reason I know of, except everything was burning up, including me. But everything was law and orderly. Even the little kids were straight and legal about not opening up the Johnny pumps. The only people up to their old tricks was Punjab and Punjab's grandfather, who sat on the trash can giving advice on single action. How she worked it, I'm not sure. I can guess, but ain't no use telling everything I know. I've seen her do some unbelievable things with landlords and with cops and with truant officers and storekeepers and with weird scales, even with the old West Indian lady, Miss Bunch, who never let anybody get into her place, not even the meter reader, much less some Fay chick. Well, I actually saw Miss Ruby lead that lady out of 575 into the light of day, over to the center to speak into the tape recorder, down to the church basement to pick up some of the senior citizens club, and back. But how she actually worked her thing on Punjab is anybody's guess, unless you happen to have some theories about men, about black men particularly, and especially about Southern black men, and about their thing about white women. My theory is the black man got jammed up by the white man's nightmare. But anyway, it must have been Punjab what called cool, because there ain't nobody else big enough on the block to do it. She opened his nose is how she did it. Like, I'd be at the phone contacting all these lames, and she was trying to set a fire under so they build a clinic and be a civil to the junkies around our way. And here comes Punjab. Not with a flashy car, not even his flashier henchman, but walking up the block alone like any normal, everyday type person. And he's peeping through the window, grinning up a storm. Not like him at all, who can be viewed at any hour of the day or night, slapping some chick upside the head and collecting coins from this barfly or that. And let Miss Ruby ask him to do something, like a centipede stumbling fast over every single one of them legs. Or I'm cranking the Mimeo because she was a bug about keeping the block informed onto the latest thing that we were getting swindled out of because we wouldn't organize. And here he comes again with beer or cigarettes or something. I'll say this for Punjab. I've seen a whole lot of piercing scenes go down in his name, but he was never close with the money. Like the time he hung this great pot of ribs and potato salad, followed up by a pan of Hoppin' John and a gallon of Gallo. Embarrassing, because I was off the clock already and had no real reason to hang around, except I likes to grit and am partial to that loving spoonful. I grit back, I won't lie. What happened was this. To make a long story short, not only had he called cool, but he also put up bail a couple of times for some of the star pupils Miss Ruby called herself rehabilitating. One of these stars split, but Punjab didn't go after him. Not only that, Punjab had also stomped a few heads by the subway garage on account of them staring too hard at Miss Ruby's hips and saying things. All in all, Miss Ruby was making puppy tracks in Punjab's books. So that fall, when she was knocking everybody out to set up an election to pick community leaders to represent us on the Poverty Council and all over the place, we figured Punjab for a natural. We figured he was going to get paid off finally. Hell, let's face it, anybody in a position to be calling themselves doing good is always doing well, if you know what I mean. And there was a whole lot of long bread coming into our area. So we figured Punjab was going to get his cut, him being the only kind of leader we could even think of. Matter of fact, most people didn't even bother to come down and cram that yellow card into the milk box. But at the rally, she actually counted all those cards and came up with this cornball preacher who used to double as Santa Claus during the holidays, and Ann Silver's grandmother, Stone Nose. These were our delegates. Needless to say, we acted up. Then Miss Ruby got warm. First time I ever heard her curse. If you didn't exercise your right as a voter, shut the hell up. That's what the cards say. That's it. Miss Elaine from 579 got up, patting her throat and her fleshy bosom, and came right out with where everybody was sitting there sweating and thinking. Now you know well as I, Miss Ruby darling, that Mr. Punjab should be one of them peoples what goes to places and talks with the man. So I don't even see no sense whatever to these cards. Well, why didn't you all vote for Mr. Punjab? Miss Ruby's hair was getting wild. Then Sister Taylor got up to say that she wasn't for Rebum Smothers representing her block since he was too busy aping that white churches and that he lost his gospel choir. And not only that, she said, jabbing a finger in the air, he don't talk good enough to be no delegate. Can't nobody hardly understand him lessing you from wherever he be from. She also had a few things to say to Miss Ruby about all this grassroots and poor folks and other phrases she didn't like coming out of no white mouth. But everybody kept signaling her and whispering and whatnot till she finally reached back and pulled her dress away from her sticky thighs. Didn't do no good. As soon as she got started again, the dress would ride up, and she was too embarrassed to put her hand where it needed to get to pull the dress straight. So she sat down. Reverend Smothers and Miss Silver are our representatives, said Miss Ruby. All block captains will meet with them to discuss what you feel should be said in the way of demands at the meeting. Adjourned. I wasn't around when Punjab came to collect, so to speak. All I can tell you is what newspaper ran down to me, and I can, of course, describe to you how the office looked. But then anybody could have busted in and messed up the place. Me and some other girls hung around there for days waiting for Miss Ruby to show up. Only person what came was some guy in an official-looking gray card with a clipboard. He asked some questions and wrote on this clipboard, but you know how dumb black people can be when they want to. But Sneaker shot off his mouth about how he should have been paid for all his legwork regardless of Punjab's debt. He went on to say that Miss Ruby was full of shit for all her foolishness about power and equality and responsibility and sacrifice, and then cop right out then when the chips were down. He said a few choice things more about ass standing in the way of progress, but then Sneaker always did have a crude type mouth. The cat in the gray car went on about his business, and we went on about ours, and that was that. Come on, walk with me, Sneaker was saying, pulling on my girlfriend. Gots to see Punjab about a job. At least he don't play around with our money. We walked Sneaker up to the pool room to wait for Punjab to come around that corner on two white walls. He always did on the 3rd and the 18th. And thus endeth the story. That one was a tough read. I'm not going to front. There was so much esoteric language and vernacular, but I dug it. I dug the rhythm of it, and I dug the nature of the story. That one's a little bit of a go back to for me. Like, I'm almost certain that I want to spend some time with that outside of the program where I can read it slowly and really take in some of that language. But there was some good stuff in that. You can find these two stories, incidentally, in their respective books. This, the first one that we read, He Was a Man by J. California Cooper. That's from the book A Peace of Mind, and you can find that at Harriet's Bookshop. You know our friends Harriet. We talk about them a lot. And this last story that we just read, Playin with Punjab, you can find that one. That one's by Toni, Cade, Bambara, and you can find that one in the book Gorilla My Love, also available at Harriet's. These are books that we have read from before. They're books that I kind of have good feelings about, so I just wanted to revisit them one more time. And last but not least, as we close out the evening, we're going to come with two stories from this little tome here called Blackberries, one of the earlier works of a good friend of the show, Crystal E. Wilkinson. Now, her stories have definitely got a beautiful country lilt to them. I wanted to pick something really, really short because I didn't know how long the other two stories were going to read. So we're going to read two really quick stories from this. The first is called Ritual, and the second is called The Wanderer. And without a whole lot of pre-mumble, we're going to jump right into it. I sit here again with this bellyache. I watch my own brown hand rubbing this tender spot as if it is a hand belonging to a stranger. My fingers massage this belly, soft, pliable. Sometimes I push in gently, trying to feel the source of this worry. Soon I will lie on my back in the comfort of a Lone Star quilt stitched by my mother. Tonight I will play Billie Holiday again, lift my nightgown and skim this stomach, kneading my own flesh, stopping to plunk here and there to hear its hollow sounds. When my closed eyes bring sleep, I will feel the flutter of butterflies beneath my belly. James will call me to bed soon. I can hear him rustling the covers. We must wait to see if our prayers are answered. He does not understand that I do not want this place touched now, that this basin is atop some sacred ground. This is a woman's ritual. I will kiss his forehead and his lips, but that is all I'm willing to do now. The rest will have to appear in some dream he will be snoring toward before I reach the bed. Tess and Lulu are in my dreams. We three cinnamon-dipped girls wading in the creek till our feet are wrinkled. We lie out on a blanket under the sun's brightest eye, see our world through the shapes of clouds, watch the blue of the Indian Creek sky. We hope that motherhood will swoop down on the backs of blue jays, that horizon-kissed feathers will float babies into the fleshy mounds of our 9-year-old bellies. Eyes closed, we pray that spiraling pine needles will land between our legs and make us bleed. I was 12 when the hurting blood came, found the color of burnt sugar between my legs. Mama said, "It's the beginning of a woman's glorious suffering, child. Just the beginning." Mama wrapped her indigo arms around me. I can still smell her kiss. It is burrowed behind my right cheek. I sit here near the window, my hands upon my waist. I watch the birth of night up over the pasty rift ridge. I hear the creek's waters from just down the hill. I can feel the moon's tug on the life strand that ropes from my navel. It's a strange feeling. Last night I told James that a woman should be able to hear such a powerful thing as procreation if she just gets still. So I listen, hush and wait. But the body is a defiant vessel. I cannot hear a thing. I imagine a crew of laborers inside this wall, checking tubes and passageways, pruning for the next harvest. When we were married, I wore purple in celebration. Me and James, all sunshine and musk in Nana's backyard, each of us veiled in July's sweat. Mama in her orange sherbet tea length, counting the numbers and naming the names of her unborn grandchildren on her fingers one by one. When she reaches 5, her voice disappears behind the band. But I see her lips moving around in the music, see her hands move to her hips. And Douglas Catherine. Now that one will be named for me. I know what she's saying. I've heard all the names so many times. I feel like I know these imaginary children, like I have always been their mother. Back then I smiled at Mama's fabulous notion. Now James is out of bed. The wood creaks under his feet. He comes to me, his eyes as bright as the stars, his head cocked like a sleepy child. He kneels to the floor, places his head on my lap, his cheek resting in the dip between my thighs. When he sighs, I feel his breath. His arms are lost somewhere around my hips. "Please come to bed," he says, each word bouncing off the top of my thigh. "Soon," I say. He kisses my leg through the thin cotton of my nightgown. For a moment, my eyes are closed and I'm receptive to his invitation. But this cannot happen tonight. There are forces at work within my body. "No," I whisper, "not yet." James does not fully understand that I want nothing to interfere with the possibility of this miracle. He looks at me with a begging light in his eye. I cup his face in my hands, pull him toward my face until our lips touch. "I love you. You know that?" I say. "I know," he says. I embrace my husband. Over his shoulder, the sky is a fresh, bright sprinkling of stars. The moon is full, round. I kiss his forehead, kiss his lips again before he heads to bed alone. Later, I hear James snoring softly. I'm pleased at the peace of him and his delicate breathing. I smile, then run my hands from belly to thighs in his honor. Mama says she's never seen any woman quite like me, that in all her born days she's never seen a woman with these strange ways, never seen a woman so bound and determined. I rub this tender place, trying to quench this ache, take in Billie Holiday's voice like water. Tonight, when my closed eyes bring sleep, I will feel a tiny mouth pull on my breast, smell my own sweet milk, A caramel face will lie in the crook of my arm, warm. And thus endeth the story. So that first one was called Ritual, and y'all got super quiet. So I don't even know if you were there to hear it. I mean, I see the numbers still there, but y'all got super duper quiet. That's okay. We'll move into the next story, which is called The Wanderer. Now, this one is super duper short. So when we're done with this, we will probably just be at 11 o'clock, if that. Many a night, Javita would lie on her back and be lulled by katydids and whippoorwills speaking to one another in the pitch of the Casey Creek night. A cool breeze would rustle her nightgown and she would lie still and awake, paying close attention to the quiet of the darkness. The leaves rustling in the air like a woman's skirt tail, and the dampness of the night, the chirping of a far-off bird. She'd make hand puppet shadows on the yellowed wallpaper as the moon shined its fullness into her bedroom window. Sometimes, with her nose pressed against a mason jar full of lightning bugs, Javita would watch the blue-green fluorescent off and on glow and set to thinking. She would wonder why white folks seem to have life so easy and why black folks seem to have so many stumbling blocks. After all, as Granny Tyne said, we was traveling through the exact same life as them. Sometimes she even wondered what it'd be like if she rose up in the morning a white girl like Paula, who lived at the end of the gravel roll, all fragile like with bone-straight hair, jet black like Brownie's mane and tail, like some fragile china doll spending time sitting somewhere just looking pretty with people, both grown and children, making a fool over her. And that hair she got, all straight and easy on a comb. Javita wondered how Paula would feel wedged between the sturdy legs of her grandnan or Granny Tyne while her locks were being coaxed into behaving. Javita guessed the flip side of that coin was that maybe, just maybe, Paula would never know the love that comes out of them hour-long combing spells, be it grandnan or mama or Granny Tyne who was doing the combing. That's how Javita got to the heart of her womenfolk, sitting with her hair weaving in and out of somebody's fingers. That's where souls get transferred. That's where knowledge was passed on. She liked that time between sturdy black legs, feeling the love being greased into her scalp. And what kind of patience could a 15-minute hair comb and learn you anyhow? Javita guessed if she didn't wake up black as pitch every morning that maybe, just maybe, there wouldn't be no need in digging that deep all the way down to the soul for strength. She figured that if her skin wasn't blue-black, she'd have to learn to laugh from her mouth and not her belly. It wouldn't be necessary anymore to force a giggle through some pain to make the pain go away. Javita decided that she wasn't even sure if she'd appreciate the beans and turnips on the table if she didn't help pick them herself. And Granny Tyne and Grandnan always said that a girl who won't work don't deserve no good, hard-working man. Javita thought she might get tired of sitting on cushy chairs all day, watching the world pass by through a looking glass. Finally decided that every morning God blessed her with, she'd wake up so black so she'd have to learn to deal with everything that came with it. After her long spell of mind wandering, she'd roll over in her bed, bid the lightning bugs good night, and try to be thankful for being black as the sky. And thus endeth the story. I like that one. I like both of those. I liked all of them tonight, and I hope you did too. This has been episode 99 of Storytime with Julian. This is the penultimate Thursday, just, 2 days away from this right now moment. We will be at episode 100, and then we're going to take a little bit of a break, close the books for a minute, regroup, redesign, refresh, and restore. That's what we're going to do. The story Ritual and The Wanderer, both of those stories are available in the book Blackberries, which you can find at Harriet's Bookshop. Those of you who are still watching on Facebook, you know that you can just click that link. Those of you who are watching on YouTube, all you got to do is go to bookshop.org. On Storytime with Julian, we like to encourage everybody to support your local bookstores. Yes, getting books on Amazon is easier. Getting books from your local bookstore helps to feed the community, and it helps Honestly, it helps to keep the prices of books regulated so that these artists can actually make some money at what they do. When you have giant behemoths like Amazon setting the prices and lowering the prices, it in the 20 some odd years that Amazon has been doing what it's doing, um, you know, real tough, it has really changed the publishing game. So we like to support Black authors, and we like to support local bookstores, and more importantly, we like to support Black bookstores. So if there's not a Black bookstore near you, we'll find one for you online so that you can support them that way. Um, but we need to kind of keep the supply chain of support moving all the way through. It's one thing to buy the book, but where you buy the book matters. How you consume the book matters. A lot of these Black books are produced by publishing companies, and they have certain special deals with small publishing houses, with small print houses, and some of those are Black owned. So even though it's easier and more convenient to read these from a device like a Kindle. Kindle is a locked ecosystem that's directly attached to Amazon. A lot of these books don't get into Apple's book platform. And so EPUBs pretty much support the Amazon infrastructure, particularly when it comes to Black books. You know, we're there, we're out there, but it's a little bit of a different game. So whenever you can, try and make your way to a local Black bookstore, to the Black authors, pick up a book, bring it home with you, make it something that you can hold on to and really consume in a meaningful way. Over the year the year plus that we have been doing this, it has been my pleasure to introduce to some of you all some new authors, to introduce some new books to some of you all, to help to restore and reignite a passion for the written word, for reading, for storytelling. For some of you who have picked up the pen and started telling your own stories, it is nothing short of an honor to know that some of you look forward to this every Tuesday and Thursday night. And it is not an honor that I take lightly. So as we take this break and take this hiatus, please understand that I want nothing more than to be able to come back soon with a richer, more developed version of this program for you. We have come a really long way in these 400s or some odd days. We really have. What started off as this sort of really uncertain, oh no, if people want to listen, it'll be fine, has turned into a really rich and really beautiful community that I am thankful for. I know I have heard from so many of you what this program does for you and what it means for you. Um, One of the things that I want to make clear now, in the event that I forget to say it on Thursday, is how much this program has done for me. How much of a lifeline it has been, where there have been times where, you know, the majority of my life these days is spent in some form of service or another. And usually that service is a kind of service that can't be, um, there can't be like a compensation or a restitution for it. And in fact, you know, where that service involves taking care of my mom, I'm just paying back a portion of the debt that I owe to her. But it can be an exhausting and draining thing. Gathering up the spirit to enter these escapisms, these little escape pods. Each of these stories is a little pocket of escapism for me, and gathering up the energy to be able to pilot this escape pod with you all helps me to find the strength within myself at the end of some very difficult days sometimes. And there are times when the days or the weeks have been too much and I just need to take a break because the prep work alone can be a lot. But having you here, knowing that this matters to you, knowing that this is something that you look forward to, it fills me, it feeds me, and it helps me to find that strength, that source at my core, and to really enjoy taking these little short trips with you. So you all have been a significant gift to me. And I just want to let you know how much I appreciate you and I'm thankful for you. These have been fun stories, man. You know what's missing, what I feel like is missing. And if y'all got the energy for it, I feel like this could go really well with just one little simple story. If y'all would give me that, we'll call it a night after that. Um, let me go ahead and let me go ahead and pull that. Okay, for those of you all who stick around, cool. If you feel like you got to leave, I understand, but I just feel like I want to put a simple story on this one. Thank you. I was saying a bunch of stuff. I was like, oh yeah, the beauty of the stories, and I really appreciate the thing about the library. It don't matter. Look, y'all. I'm sorry about that. But let's go ahead and get this let's get this last little bit of simple in. Um Man, I'm trying to remember. I took my bookmark out of this book, which is crazy. Um yeah. Yep, Fish and Dream and Fish. I remember that one. And I remember that one when Aunt Lucy was giving him a whooping. And I remember this one. Okay, we're getting to it. Simple on military integration. That one was rough. All right, we got it. Because the last one that we read, Simple was talking about resolutions and how much he was tired of things being resolved. People needed to solve and not just resolve. Y'all remember that? So I forgot to take this away. Hold on. So this simple story is called Blue Evening. And I think some of you all said that Smitty reminded you of Simple's dumber cousin. And from what I'm seeing at the top of this story, you might be right. Blue Evening. When I walked into the bar and saw him on the corner stool alone, I could tell something was wrong. Another hangover? Nothing that simple. This is something I never thought would happen to me. What? I asked. That a woman could put me down. In the past, I have always left women's. No woman ever left me. Now Joyce has quit. I don't believe it, I said. You've been going together for 2-3 years and getting along fine. What happened? That little matter of the divorce from your wife, the fur coat, or what? Zarita, said Simple. Zarita? She's nothing to you. I know it. said Simple. She never was nothing to me but a now and then. But Zarita has ruined my life. You don't know how it feels, buddy, when somebody has gone that you never had before. I never had a woman like Joyce. I loved that girl. Nobody cared for me like Joyce did. Have a drink, I said. On me. This is one time I do not want to drink. I feel too bad. Then it is serious, I said. It's what the blues is made of, said Simple. Love, oh love, careless love. Buddy, I was careless. What happened, old man? Zarita, said Simple. I told that woman never to come around my room without letting me know in advance. Joyce is too much of a lady to always be running up to my place, which is why I love her. Only time Joyce might ring my bell is when she can't get me on the phone due to my landlady is evil and sometimes will not even deliver a message. Then maybe Joyce might ring my bell, but she never come upstairs lest it is to me hang some new spring curtain she made herself or change my dresser scarf. What's come up now is Rita's fault, plus my landlady's. Them two women's is against me. That word town and country use for female dogs just about fit them. I understand. They are not genteel characters, but what exactly took place? It hurts me to think of it, let alone to talk about it, but I will tell you. Zarita not only came around to my room the other night, but she brought her whole birthday party unannounced, uninvited, and unwanted. I didn't even know it were her birthday. I had just come in from work, ate a little supper at the barbecue shack, and was preparing to take a nap and maybe to go out later and drop by to see where Joyce in the mood when my doorbell rung like mad 9 times, which is the ring for my 3rd floor rear. It was about 9 p.m. I go running downstairs in my shirt tail, 11 Negroes, male and female, come pouring in the door, led by Zarita herself, whooping and hollering and high, yelling they come to help me celebrate her birthday, waving 3-4 bottles of liquor and gin. Zarita say, honey, I forgot to tell you, I'm 20 some odd years old today. Whoopee! We started celebrating this morning and we still going. Come on up, folk. Let's play his combination. This man had got some fine records. I didn't have a chance to say nothing. They just pulled up the steps with me trailing behind and my landlady looking cross-eyed out her door and Zarita talking so loud you could hear her in Buffalo. Next thing I know, Louis Jordan was turned up full blast and somebody had even put a loud needle in the Victrola. Them Negroes took possession. Well, you know I always tries to be a gentleman, even to Zarita, so I did not ask them out. I just poured myself a half glass of their gin, which I do not ordinarily partake. Then I hollered, happy birthday, as well. Well, the rest of the room was here to function and started coming in my room. Boyd next door brought his girlfriend over, and before you know it, the ball was on. The joint jumped. To tell the truth, I even enjoyed myself. By and by, Zarita say, honey, send out and get some more to drink. Send who? I said. We ain't got no messenger boy. She say, just give me the money then, and I will send that old down-home schmoo who's been trying to make love to me since 4 o'clock this afternoon. That man ain't nothing to me but an errand boy. So she went and sent the old dope after a gallon of beer and pretzels. Soon as he left out the door, Zarita grabbing me close as paper on the wall and started to dance. She danced so frantic I could not keep up with her, so I turned her loose and let her go for herself. She had a great big old pocketbook on her arm, and it was just a swinging. Everybody else stopped dancing to watch Zarita, who always did want to be a showgirl. She was really kicking up her heels and throwing her hips from north to south. All of a sudden, she flung up her arms and hollered, yippee, while her pocketbook went flying through the air. When it hit the ceiling, it busted wide open. Man, everything she had in it strewed out all over my floor soon as it come down. Lord have mercy, Zarita say. Stop the music. Don't nobody move an inch. You might step on some of my personal belongings. Just about then, the downstairs doorbell rung 9 times. My ring. I said, Somebody go down and let that guy in with the beer while we pick up Zarita's stuff. Zarita say, you help me, baby. The rest of you all just stay where you are. I ain't acquainted with some of you folks, and I don't want to lose nothing valuable. Well, you know how many things a woman carry in her pocketbook. Zarita had lost them all, flung from one wall or the other to my room. Compact busted open, powder spilt, mirror, key ring, 7 keys, lipstick, handkerchief, deck of cards, black lace glove, bottle opener, cigarette case, chewing gum, bromo, quinine box, small change, fountain pen, sunglasses, big old silver dollar bowl for luck, address books, fingernail file, 3 blue poker chips, matches, flask, and a shoehorn. Her perfume bottle broke against the radiator, so my room smelled like women's, liquor, men's, and a night in Paris. Zarita was down on her hands and knees scrambling around for things, so I got down on my hands and knees too. Baby, she say to me, I believe my lipstick rolled under your bed. We both crawled under the bed to see. While we was under there, Zarita kissed me. She crawled out with the shoehorn and I crawled out with her lipstick, some of it on the side of my mouth. Just as I got up, there stood Joyce in my door with a package in her hand. Have you ever seen a man dark as me turn red? I turned red, daddy-o. I opened my mouth to say, how'd it do? But not a sound come out. Joyce had on her gold earrings and I could see they were shaking, but she did not raise her voice. She was too hurt. Zarita say, why, Joyce, tip on in and enjoy my birthday. We don't mind. Just excuse my stuff flying all over the room. Me and Mr. Semple is having a ball. Joyce looked at the black lace gloves, playing cards strewed all over the place, cigarette, compact case, poker chips, address book, powder bowl dollar, and a nail file on the floor with all them strange Negroes sitting on the bed, in the windowsill, on the dresser, everywhere but on the ceiling, and lipstick on my cheek. She did not say a word. She just turned her head away and looked like tears was aching to come to her eyes. I says, Joyce, baby, listen, I says, I want a word with you. She say, I come round here to bring you your yellow rayon silk shirt I ironed for you special for Sunday. Since your landlady said you was at home, she told me to bring it on upstairs myself. Here it is. I did not know you had company. Just then, that old down-home Negro come up with the beer yelling, Gangway, the stuff is here, make room. And he almost run over Joyce. Joyce says, excuse me for being in your guest way. She turned to go. In fact, she went. I followed her on down the steps, but she did not turn her head. That loudmouth Zarita put the needle on Louis Jordan's bodacious let the good times roll, and the ball were on again. When I got to the bottom of the steps, my landlady was standing like a marble statue. Landlady say, no decent woman approves of this, which is when Joyce start crying. Boy, my heart was broke because I hates to be misunderstood. I say, Joyce, I did not like them parties over here. Joyce say, you don't need to explain to me, just simple. Getting all formal and everything. She said, now I have seen that woman with my own eyes in your bedroom with her stuff spread out every which way, just like she was home. And people I know from their looks could not be your friends because I've never met any of them before, so they must be hers. Maybe Zarita lives with you. No wonder you giving a birthday party to which I'm not invited. Good night. I'm gone out of your life from now on. Enjoy yourself. Good night. If she had fussed and raised her voice, I would not have felt so bad. But the sweet way she say, enjoy yourself, all ladylike and sad and quiet, as if she was left out of things, cut me to my soul. Joyce ought to know I would not leave her out of nothing. I would have followed her in the street, but she say, don't you come behind me. The way she said it, I know she meant it, so I did not go. When I turned back, there was my landlady. All I said to that old battle axe was, go to hell. I was so mad at that woman for sending Joyce upstairs. She started yelling as soon as I went up the steps, but I didn't hear a word she said. I know she was telling me to find me another room, but I didn't care. All I wanted was to lay eyes on Zarita, stop them damn records from playing, and get them low down, dirty, no gooders out my room, which I did before you could say Jackie Robinson. But after they left, I could not sleep. It were a blue evening. Summer's Arita's stuff was still on the floor the next day when I went to work, so I gathered it up and brought it on down here to the bartender and left it for her. I do not want to see Zarita no more again. The smell of that night in Paris water is still in my room. I smell it till the day I die. But I don't care if I die right now. I don't know what to say to Joyce. A man should not fool around with a bad woman no kind of way when he got a good woman to love. They say you never miss the water till the well run dry. Boy, you don't know how I miss Joyce these last few days. Haven't you tried to see her? I asked. Tried, said Simple. I phoned her 17 times. She will not answer the phone. I rung her bell. Nobody would let me in. I sent her 6 telegrams, but she do not reply. If I could write my thoughts, I would write a letter, but I'm no good at putting my words on paper much. The way I feel now, nobody could put my feeling down no how. I got the blues for true. I can't be satisfied. This morning I had the blues so bad I wish that I had died. These is my bitter days. What shall I do? I don't know. You never know nothing important, said Simple. All you know how to argue is about race problems. Tonight I would not care if all the race problems in the world was to descend right down on New York. I would not care if Rankin himself would be elected mayor and the Ku Klux Klan took over the city council. I would not care if Mississippi moved to Times Square. But nobody better not hurt, harm no Joyce. I'm telling you, even if she walked out my life, that woman is my life. So nobody better not touch her hair or her head, buddy. Oh, wait for me while I walks by her house just to see if there's a light on in the window. I just want to know if she got home from work safe tonight. She's been getting home safely by herself all these years, I said. Why are you so worried tonight? Please don't start no whys and wherefores. I sympathize with you. Still, there are always ameliorating circumstances. I don't know what that word means, said Simple, but all that rates with me now is what to say to that girl if I ever get a chance to say anything. If she does not come to the door when I ring this time, if I see a light, I'm going to holler. Since she lives on the 3rd floor, you can hardly play Romeo and climb up, I said. Still, I don't believe Joyce would relish having her name called aloud in the streets. If she don't let me through the door, I'll have to call her, said Simple. I can explain by saying that I have lost my mind and that she has driven me crazy, and I will stand in front of her house all night if she don't answer. The law would probably remove you, I said. They would have to use force to do it, said Simple. I wouldn't care if the police broke my head anyhow. Joyce done broke my heart. You've got it bad, I said. Worse than bad, moaned Simple. Here, take this quarter and buy yourself a beer whilst you wait till I come back. I have some affairs of my own to attend to, I protested, so I can't wait all night. I thought you was my ace boy, he said as he turned away. But everybody let you down when trouble come. If you can't wait, then don't. To hell with you. Don't. I started to say I would wait, but Simple was gone. And thus endeth the story. Yo! I did not see that coming. I did not see that coming from Simple. And it's a cliffhanger. Where did Simple go? Is he coming back? Will Joyce ever take him back? There's so much we don't know. What a perfect way to end the show, with a cliffhanger. We went a little bit over time, but I feel kind of like it was worth it. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. I just want to see some of the comments here. I was getting deep. Yes, I was. Ruined. She done ruined his life. Yeah. That's when it got real for me too. That's when this right here. Yes. Also one of those phrases I kind of want to borrow. Closest paper on the wall. They was doing that belly rubbing dance. You know what I'm talking about? And she had turned her head away. Yes, she did. The landlady is cold-blooded. She did indeed set him up. And yeah, Joyce got that Charles talk. You know, when somebody talks to you quiet, It's real. Judy Lee called him. You know you in trouble when they talk quiet, boy. Yeah. Yeah. Simple offering to buy beer. If that don't tell you everything you need to know about this story, man. Listen, this has been a fun night, y'all. Thank you so much for indulging me on that last little bit of story. This has been episode 99 of Storytime with Julian. Thursday, we're going to knock it off with 100. I'm so happy to have you here. Make sure you tell some friends. Make sure you share that link. Come back tomorrow. Make a comment down in this post so that you can be eligible for that lit bag. I want to give it to somebody who really wants it. You understand what I'm saying? So make sure you make those comments, y'all. This has been episode 99. I have been your host and lead griot, Julian. If you want to hit us up and support us on Cash App, you can still continue to support Storytime with Julian. It's hashtag Storytime with Julian. I probably have a banner for it somewhere. It's like, first of all, subscribe. And you can go ahead and bust those tips right out over there. And that's it, y'all. This is it. Have a great night. Thank you so much for coming out. We'll see you next time.